Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatvam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Praptasya Kalyana Gurnanavasya Vande Garashi Charanaravrindam Praptasya Kalyana Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shangaratanama Dhiramarjanado Juktasya Bhaktamsya Niyunjatapi Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Chaturvidhashi Bhagavat Prasada Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangam Kritvaeva Tripte Bhajata Shadeva Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Shiradikama Dabayarapara Madhurya Lila Gunarupanamna Shiradikama Pratikshana Swa Dhanalalupasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Ne Kunjayuno Ratikeli Siddhai Jajali Bhir Joktir Apekshaniya Ratikeli Siddhai Jajali Bhir Joktir Tatrati Daksha Ativalavasa Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Sakshadharitvena samastashrastre Ruktastatthava Vyataiva sadhavi Kintu pravarja priya eva tasya Vande Gurashi charanara vrindam Yasya prasadar bhagavat prasado Yasya prasadam nagati kutapi Yasya prasadam Dayam stovam tasya yasatrin sandhyam Bande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityana Mine Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachatari Satarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hariyaraye Namah, Krishna Jadavaye Namah, Jadavaye Madhavaye Kesavaye Namah, Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan, Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan, Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita, Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita, Shri Rupa Sanatana Vatara Guna, Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasara Guna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Radha Nila Madhav, Radha Nila Madhav Radhe, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadrama, Jaya Sudarshan Chakra, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadrama, Jaya Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Pramanandi Haribo. Jai Vishwapar Paramsa Prabhajakacharya Suttara Sarasishimar Hijman के सभोचरमिन भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज शील प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन प्रतिष्ठा विविधि सांस्तपकाचार्य वैष्णव शिरोमणि पतित पावन शील प्रभुपाद जी महाराज की जय। श्री गौरी गुरु वर्गा पतित उद्धार की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भक्त दास गुण सदगोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। नाम आचार्य शील हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसरि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय। जय प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनाक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिदानंद स्मरण गौरंग श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि मवरनावतार की जय। गोलोकेर प्रमदान हरिनाम संकीर्तन जय की जय। जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। बृहद निदांग ट्रांसलेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपिंद राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय। श्री ब्रज भूमि वृंदावन मथुर धाम की जय। तिलोच श्री राधा नील माधव की जय। श्री मायापुर द्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय। परम करुण श्री गौर निताय की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम चित्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु सुभद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्रवर्ती की जय। भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशन करुण श्रृंगारे भगवान की जय। सीताराम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान जी की जय। जगंगा माय जमुना माय की जय। तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। श्रीमती राधारानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। निताय गौरी प्रमानंदे। All glory to the assembly bodies. All glory to the assembly bodies. All glory to the assembly bodies. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru Shri Gauranga. Gaurari. Can you sing the Shinga prayer? Can you sing the Shinga prayer? No, don't worry. Let us sing.
Narasingaya Namaste Narasingaya Praladaladaine Praladaladaine Hiranyakashipurvakshaha Shilatankanakalaye To Nrsimha Parato Nrsimha Yato Yato Yami Tato Nrsimha Bahir Nrsimha Hridaye Nrsimha Narasingamadim Charanam Prapate तव करकमलवरेणाकामद्भुतशृङ्गां दलिताैरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गां केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे अद्भुतशृङ्गां दलिताैरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गां केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो प्रहलाद महाराज जयो प्रहलाद महाराज जयो प्रहलाद महाराज जयो प्रहलाद महाराज जयो जयो प्रभुपाद 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 जयो जयो प्रभुपाद जयो जयो गुरुदेव 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 जयो जयो गुरुदेव बोलो भक्त विघ्न विनाशक नरसिंहदेव भगवान की भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की शिला प्रभुपाद की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे श्रीमती प्रति देवी सत्य
कृष्ण भक्ति प्राण देवी सतवताय कृष्ण भक्ति प्राण देवी सतवताय जय श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय।
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः प्रेयसी नमो नमः राधा कृष्णा सेवा पावो अभिलाषी कृष्ण सेवा पावो अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो अभिलाषी जे तोमारा शरण लोय तारा वंचा पूरण होय कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी मोराए अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास नयने हरि बो सदा जुगल रूपरासी निवेदना धारो साखीर अनुगाता कोरो साखीर अनुगाता कोरो सेवाधिकारा दिए कोरो निज दासी सेवाधिकारा दिए कोरो निज दासी दीना कृष्ण दासे कोए जीना मोरा होए कृष्ण दासे कोए जीना मोरा श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा जीना भासी श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा जीना भासी सदा जीना भासी यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे जया तुलसी महारानी जया तुलसी महारानी जया तुलसी महारानी जया तुलसी महारानी जया वृंदा देवी जया वृंदा देवी जया वृंदा देवी जया वृंदा देवी नित्य गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौरा हरि बोल नित्य गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौरा हरि बोल। श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की जय।
Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of his wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure groves, Shri Vrindavan town. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold beautiful person of Radha and Krishna. I beg you with me at 40,000 times as a grudge. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own medicine. Ready, fallen Lord, who serve the Krishna praise. May I all sing. Love Shri Radha Go. Shri Mati Tulsi Maharani Vrindi Devi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Jai. Chaito Darpanam Vatanam Vamadhavani Nivapanam Shri Akariva Chandrika Vitaranam Vidya Varu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Padipadam Purata Swadanam Savatmasnam Paramparam Jayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Vaudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Vikaliyamitasmani Nakanda Ita Vishitava Vipaya Bhagavan Namati Rudai Vanivesha Yajanina Murada Vinada Vishunichaya Tara Visaishana Amani Namanadena Itanya Sadayani Nadanam Nadanam Nasundari Kavitanga Jagadisha Pramaye Vamadharmane Dharmaneshwari Bhavata Bhakti Rahaitu Kitvayi Ayinanda Dhamja Kindaram Paditamam Vishameva Vambudo Vipaya Tava Padapantaja Tita Duri Satesham Chintaya Nayanam Garadaya Vadanam Garadaya Purakanishtam Apurukata Tavanagane Yuraitam Nishena Chakusha Pravisaitam Shunyaitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virapena Asya Bhagavatam Vinastunam Adarshana Marmanam Purukata Yathatha Vidhatu Lampato Matramanatta Srivanakvaraha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Jai. Glory to Shri Krishna Sankirtanam explains the heart of the Buddha's life for years and establishes the private conditioned life for the future birth and death. In Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity of life because it spreads the rays of benediction movement. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. Oh my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There is no hard and fast rule for chanting these names. Oh my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I'm so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. Once we chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than straw in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yes, somehow or other I have fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, When will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and will the hairs on my body stand on the end of the recitation of your name? Oh Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so. Even if handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me, he is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri 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 Kristakam Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. To blaspheme, devotees who dedicate a life for propagating holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names demigods of Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature and pursuance of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activity, karma kanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person by the glories of holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let's offer our most humble blessings unto all the Vaishnavas. Yeah, just like that, we desire everyone, and therefore the compassion for the fallen conditioned souls.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskati Dasatana Shri Guru Pranama Prayers Ki Jai Om Aganyati Mirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Pachikamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivitam Sah Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Disatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namane Shivarsavanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastute Namaste Gauravani Shri Mutaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Apasiddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Gora Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murte Vipralambara Sambode Padam Bujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitanandanamine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gora Vir Baba Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Sri Jagannathayate Namaha Kalpatarambhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patittanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurachase Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhakta Saktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Suratur Pangur Mama Manda Matirgati Matsarva Swapadambujo Radha Madana Mohano Divya Drindaranya Kalpadumadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simhasanastito Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prestali Bihi Sevyamano Smarami Shiman Rasara Sarambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karsan Venu Swaner Gopir Gopinatak Striyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneswari Rishabhanu Stute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Guru Pranama Prayers Ki Jai Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chentamani Prakadasat Masukalpa Riksha Laksa Vrite Susurabir Abhipaliyantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Sevyamanam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Gvananta Varavinda Dalayataksam Bharhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Visesa Sobam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasadvanamalya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shamam Chibanga Lalita Niyata Prakasam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalayanti Chiranjaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vede Sudurlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastakoti Satavatsada Sampragamyo Vayuratapi Manaso Muni Pungamanam Sopyastiyat Prapadasimya Vichintya Tattve Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chayatum Jagadanda Kotim Yes Chaktirasti Jagadanda Chayayadanta Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Bhavitab Diyo Manajasta Taiva Sampraptya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusa Sutaryameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabis Tabirya Eva Nijarupataya Kalabi Goloka Eva Nivasat Akilatma Bhuto Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Santak Sadev Sahidavesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Nevnatistan Nanavataram Akarot Bhuvane Sukintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pumam Yo Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadanda Koti Koti Swasesu Vasudadi Vibhuti Vinam Tad Brahma Niskalam Anantam Asesa Bhutam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Maya Hiyasya Jagadanda Satani Sute Jai Gunyatad Vishaya Veda Vitayamanam Sattva Valambi Parasattvam Visuddhasattvam Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasatmataya Manasu Ya Praninam Pratifulam Smaratam Upetya Lilayatena Bhuvanani Jaya Yajasram Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Golokanamni Nijatamni Tale Chatasya Devi Mahesu Haridama Sutesu Tesu Te Te Prabhava Nichaya Vihitaschayena Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Srististati Pralayasada Vasaktireka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vivarti Durga Ichanurupam Abhyasya Chachestate Sa Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yata Dadivikara Visesa Yoga Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Heto Ya Sambhutam Apitata Samapaitikariya Govindam Adi Purusham Bhajami Departure Evahita Santanam Abhyupetya Dipayate Rivita Hetu Samanu Dharma Yastadrigeva Hicha Vishnu Taya Vibhati Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narna Vajale Vajatisma Yoga Nidram Ananta Jagadanda Saroma Kupaha Adhara Saktim Avalambya Param Swamurtim Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasita Mata Valambya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadandanata Vishnur Mahansa Hiyasya Kala Visheso Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Basman Yatasma Sakalesu Nijesu Teja Sriyam Kiyat Prakatayat Apitatvatatra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidana Karta Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidai Kumbha Twande Tranama Samaye Sagunadi Raja Vignan Vihantam Alamasya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahiga Ganamambu Marudisascha Kalastatatma Manasitti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Yamcha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschaksuresa Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesa Tejaha Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmo Tapapa Nichaya Srutayastapamsi Brahma Dikita Patagava Deyasta Jivaha Yadatta Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabhava Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrindra Gopa Matavindra Mahoswa Karma Bandhana Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nirta Hatikintu Bhakti Bhajam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Bitti Vatsalya Moha Guragora Vasevya Bhavahai Sanchintya Tasya Sadrisim Tanamapurete Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shriyakanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo Duma Bhumish Chintamani Ganamayi Toyam Amritam Kataganam Natyam Gamanam Apivamsi Priya Saki Chidanandam Jyoti Param Apitad Aswadhyam Apicha Sayatra Shiradi Bihi Shavati Surabi Vyascha Sumahan Nime Sardakyova Vajati Nahiyatrapi Samaya Bhaje Swita Dvipam Tamaham Ihagolakam Itiyam Vidanta Ste Santakshiti Viralachara Katipaye Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, verse number 38. Sri Sukha Uvacha Sampradishyaivam Ajano Jananam Paramestitam Pasyatastasya tadrupam Atmano Nyarunadari. Sri Sukha Uvacha. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, Sampradisya, fully instructing Brahmaji. Evam, thus, Ajana, the Supreme Lord, Jananam, of the living entities, Paramestinam, unto the Supreme Leader Brahma, Pasyata, while he was seeing, Tasya, his, Tat, Rupam, that transcendental form, Atmana, of the Absolute, Niyarunat, disappeared, Hari, the Lord, the personality of Godhead. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Sukadeva Goswami said to Maharaj Parikshit, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, after being seen in his transcendental form, instructing Brahmaji, the leader of the living entities, disappeared. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, it is clearly mentioned that the Lord is Ajana, or the Supreme Person, and that he was showing his transcendental form, Atmano Rupam, to Brahmaji, while instructing him in the summarization of Srimad Bhagavatam in 4 verses. He is Ajana, or the Supreme Person, amongst Jananam, or all persons. All living entities are individual persons, and amongst all such persons, Lord Hari is supreme, as confirmed in the Shruti mantra, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. So there is no place for impersonal features in the transcendental world as there are impersonal features in the material world. Whenever there is Chaitana, or knowledge, the personal feature comes in. In the spiritual world, everything is full of knowledge, and therefore everything in this transcendental world, the land, the water, the tree, the mountain, the river, the man, the animal, the bird, everything is of the same quality, namely Chaitana, and therefore everything there is individual and personal. So Chaitana means knowledge. Yeah. Srimad Bhagavatam gives us this information as the supreme Vedic literature, and it was personally instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to Brahmaji, so that the leader of the living entities might broadcast the message to all in the universe in order to teach the supreme knowledge of Bhakti Yoga. Brahmaji in his turn instructed Narada, his beloved son, and the same message is Srimad Bhagavatam, and Narada in his turn taught the same to Vyasadeva, who again taught it to Sukadeva Goswami. Through Sukadeva Goswami's grace and by the mercy of Maharaj Parikshit, we are all given Srimad Bhagavatam perpetually to learn the science of the absolute personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sukadeva Goswami said to Maharaj Parikshit, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, after being seen in his transcendental form, instructing Brahmaji, the leader of the living entities, disappeared. So yesterday we were discussing the way of knowing God. And this is a very important thing to know. Because the most important thing we can know in life is who is Krishna, who are we, what is our relationship with Krishna, what is matter, how to relate to matter, and what is karma, or activities in the material world, and how to be free of these activities and go back to Godhead. That is the summary of real self-realization. So it says that the spiritual masters always base their statements on what they have heard from authoritative sources, never on personal experience. Well, we explained that yesterday. But this is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, which says in the 17th chapter that the real austerity of the mind or of speech is anuvegam karam bacham satyam priyahitam chayat swadhyaya vyasanam chaiva vanmayam tapa uchyate. Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literatures, 1715. And Prabhupada explains, one should not speak in such a way as to agitate the minds of others. Of course, when a teacher speaks, he can speak the truth for the instruction of his students. But such a teacher should not speak to those who are not his students if he will agitate their minds. So this is a fundamental point for preachers. If you want to be an effective preacher, don't overload someone with Vedic knowledge. It's like browbeating them because they're not in the ability, they have no ability of understanding. As long as someone's in a mode of ignorance, they can't understand anything about spiritual life. So you have to explain things that they might be able to understand a little bit, such as things relating to their body, because they're all attached to the body. So people would like to hear about, just like Saturday when we went on Sankirtan, almost everybody we met was completely in the mode of ignorance. So what did I talk to them about? I said, eat healthy so you'll be happy. Click. They understood that. And then when they saw, and I opened up the plate of the go box, I opened it up, and I explained to them what they were eating. The first thing they said, oh, that looks good, because it was colorful. You see, if everything is brown, people go, ugh, like that. See, but this was colorful. There was yellow colors, there were green colors, there were red colors, and it smelled nice. And the fear in their mind was, is it going to be very spicy? So I told them, no, it's not spicy. So the first thing they said when they saw it, without my saying anything, said, oh, that looks good. See? And then I explained to them, this is a mixture of lentils, mung dal. So some people knew mung dal. So I said, this is split yellow mung dal. That's why it's nice and yellow. I said, oh, that's good. And I said, and there's rice also. And there are a lot of vegetables. And there were red vegetables, green vegetables, like that. And then I said, and this is a chutney, a mixture of some spices with tomato paste and pineapple and cabbage. They said, ooh, that sounds good. See, they're interested in their body, and they love to taste things, good things. And I said, and this is a flatbread made fresh right here. Everything else is cooked in our kitchen or our commissary, but this we make fresh here. And they said, wow, that's great. And I said, now underneath the flatbread are dates. They said, what? Oh my God, I can't wait to eat those dates. So you see, everything was understandable by them. You know, and then I said, be healthy, eat healthy, and be happy. And they said, I've been thinking about changing my diet, and I said, it's all vegetarian. I said, well, yeah, I've been thinking about giving up meat also, because I don't feel so good when I eat the meat. I said, well, here's your chance. So you see, it was all positive, and they could understand it, right? If I say, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he came as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 500 years ago, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and if you don't chant Hare Krishna, you're a demon. You think they would understand that? No way. There's no way they would understand it. So, okay, well, thank you very much. I'll see you later. Yeah, see, you have to learn how to preach. So it says here, austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful. Well, everything I said was truthful. This is mung dal, this is rice, this is that, right? Pleasing, well, it was pleasing because they're interested in maybe trying some vegetarian food. They're interested in being healthy. They're interested in seeing things that are colorful, right? Like, for example, if you ever see a Mexican food truck, and they have pictures of what they serve. Well, those pictures are very attractive. They have pieces of avocado that are green. They have some red chilies that are red. They have or green. They have some red bell peppers. They're red, right? Then they have some cilantro or parsley. It's green, right? Then they have some yellow things, and a few brown things. So it's very colorful, right? So our prasadam plate should also be very colorful, as well as healthy, as well as tasty, and as well as offered with respect. The city of Renton made a poster for us to advertise us, and they picked up on this because they saw the Fox News Q13 video, and they had in big letters, offered with respect. You see? So people pick up on these things. These are like mantras for them, right? So we have to know how to present Krishna consciousness so that even the most ignorant person can understand something. As soon as they begin to understand something, they can go on to understanding other things. So therefore, in the purport, Prabhupada says, one should not speak in such a way as to agitate the minds of others. Of course, when a teacher speaks, he can speak the truth for the instruction of his students, but such a teacher should not speak to those who are not his students if he will agitate their minds. So, there are many devotees like that don't know how to preach. And when they go out on Sankirtan, they try and force people to take a book. And it turns off some people. Like, some people are happy they got the book, but a lot of people are turned off by it. And they say, I don't want to have anything to do with these people. So we have to be very careful. We should not preach to people if they are not our student and if it will agitate their mind. So we have to be able to say things that even in the mode of ignorance they can understand. So all demons are interested in their body. The demons that are a little bit more advanced are interested in their mind. And then demons that have been a little bit purified, they might be interested in finding out who they are. So, therefore, there's different levels of demons, and we can preach to them if we understand the modes of material nature and how they affect people. Of course, if we don't come to class, we don't hear these things, then we'll just go out and make a mess and create enemies instead of devotees. We fry the people we're trying to save because of ignorance. See? And the people that don't come to the class, they're like that. They fry people that they're trying to save. And then people say, I'm never going back there again. And I don't like Hare Krishna people, So, therefore, it says, this is penance as far as talking is concerned. Besides that, one should not talk nonsense. The process of speaking in spiritual circles is to say something upheld by the scriptures. One should not at once quote from scriptural authority. One should at once quote from scriptural authority to back up what he is saying. At the same time, such talk should be very pleasurable to the ear. So one time I went to this interfaith conference, and some priest got up and said some things, and then some Unitarian, Universalist, so-called Christian, they're not really Christians, got up and said some nonsense. And then the Muslim got up and said something. And everything he said, he quoted Quran. I was like impressed by him, I said, wow, he's doing that. So when I got up, everything I said, I quoted Sanskrit. And the Muslim was looking at me. He was a little bit upset by what I was saying, because I said, that most Muslims are not actually Muslims because they insult Allah. He almost burst out, when I said that. And I explained why. I said, because they say Allah does not have a form, and he's not a person. He's a person, but he's formless. So I said, that's an insult. So anyway, I was quoting Sanskrit. He was quoting Quran, you see. So Islam is, and real Christians, they will quote the Bible. And real Jews, they will quote the Torah. So that's the way to speak in spiritual circles, not necessarily in public, because people get a little bit annoyed if you say too much Sanskrit or Arabic or whatever. But at least one should be able to back up all their statements. The process of speaking in spiritual circles is to say something upheld by the scriptures. One should at once quote from scriptural authority to back up what he is saying. So notice it says the process of speaking in spiritual circles. That's amongst devotees. At the same time, such talk should be very pleasurable to the ear. By such discussions, one may derive the highest benefit and elevate human society. There is a limitless stock of Vedic literature, and one should study this. This is called penance of speech. Now you notice, how did Brahma qualify for the special mercy of Krishna? By penance, by voluntarily accepting of discomfort in order to make spiritual advancement, right? So every time we speak, we can speak as a penance to get the mercy of Krishna. If he sees how much trouble we're going through to spread his glories, he'll be very, very pleased by us. Then it says, Mana prasada samyatvam monam atma vinigraha bhaya samsudir iti etat tapo manasam uchyate. And satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind. Okay. To make the mind austere is to detach it from sense gratification. It should be so trained that it can be always thinking of doing good for others. That means para upakar in Sanskrit, doing good to others. That's one of our mottos of this temple. The best training for the mind is gravity in thought. One should not deviate from Krishna consciousness and must always avoid sense gratification. To purify one's nature is to become Krishna conscious. Satisfaction of the mind can be obtained only by taking the mind away from thoughts of sense enjoyment. The more we think of sense enjoyment, the more the mind becomes dissatisfied. This is a law of nature. This is a law of nature. The more we think of sense enjoyment, the more the mind becomes dissatisfied. You know anyone with a dissatisfied mind? That's almost everybody. Now we know why. Because they're thinking of sense gratification. Everything starts from the subtle and goes to the gross. The more one thinks of sense enjoyment, the more the mind becomes dissatisfied. In the present age, we unnecessarily engage the mind in so many different ways for sense gratification, and so there is no possibility of the mind's becoming satisfied. The best course is to divert the mind to Vedic literature, which is full of satisfying stories, as in the Puranas and the Mahabharata. One can take advantage of this knowledge and thus become purified. The mind should be devoid of duplicity. Duplicity means cheating and being cunning to cheat others. Yeah. And one should think of welfare of all. Silence means that one is always thinking of self-realization. That doesn't mean you don't talk. It means that you're always thinking of self-realization. The person in Krishna consciousness observes perfect silence in this sense. Control of the mind means detaching the mind from sense enjoyment. One should be straightforward in his dealings and thereby purify his existence. All these qualities together constitute austerity in mental activities. Wow. Bhagavad Gita is full of transcendental wisdom, and it's really wonderful to be able to hear these things. So 1 second, I want to just note something. I saw something here that's very important, and I don't want to forget it. So making notes is good to help you remember things that are important. Where is that? I got 22. 24. Yeah. That is 17, 16. Okay. So, now it says, trying to understand things by one's own direct experience is the material process of gaining knowledge, technically called pratyaksha. The Vedic method is different. It is called shruti, which means to hear from authoritative sources. That is the secret of Vedic understanding. Wow. With your imperfect senses, you should not try to understand things that are beyond your experimental powers. That is not possible. Suppose you want to know who your father is. Can you find out by experimenting? Is it possible? No. Then how can you know who your father is? Like, let's say someone was born in a family, and the family gave that child to an orphanage. And later on, the orphanage gave that child to another family. Now, how would that child know who the real father and mother is? Right? They might ask, but their foster parents will probably say, "Oh, we are, darling. We're your father and mother," because they don't want to confuse the child, right? So when the child grows up, he could ask that question again. They said, "Well, we don't know for sure because the orphanage or the child placement agency is not supposed to tell us, or does not tell us who the real father and mother is." So then how would the child know who their real father and mother is? They'd have to experiment, go around and ask everyone, "Are you my father? Are you my mother?" You see. So don't get fooled by this statement. Someone said, "Well, nowadays we have genetic tests. We can tell, who the father, who the mother is." That's a bunch of nonsense. If you don't have any guess or any information of where to look, you would have to look at everybody in the world, right? Or every white person or every black person, whatever, or very Latino person. So you would never really know unless your real mother told you. By hearing from the proper authority, your mother, this is common sense. And if you cannot know your material father by the experimental process, how can you know the Supreme Father by the experimental process? This is called starting from the known to understand the unknown, you see. And if you cannot know your material father by the experimental process, how can you know the Supreme Father by the experimental process? Krishna is the original father. He's the father of the father of the father, all the way down to you. So if you cannot understand your immediate father, the previous generation, by the experimental process, how can you know God or Krishna in this way? See, if you want to be able to preach effectively, you have to understand what's being said here. And don't think that by reading it once you're going to understand what it says. Although you understand the English, but the concept, to understand the concept is another thing. It requires constant repetition and practice in the field. The field is Harinam Sankirtan, where you actually can practice whether you actually understood this or not. See? And if you say it correctly, it'll click to the people. The people go click, and they'll say, I understand. I'm glad you explained that to me. I've never heard anyone explain this so clearly as you have. That's what they'll say. That means you actually understood yourself. Right? People search for God by the experimental process, but after much searching, they fail. Then they say, oh, there is no God. I am God. But the Ishopanishad says that one should try to learn about God not by the experimental process, but by hearing, Shruti. From whom should one hear? Now that's the most important question right there. From whom should one hear? From a shopkeeper? From fanatics? No. One should hear from those who are dhira. Dhira means one whose senses are not agitated by material influence. There you go. There are different kinds of agitation. Agitations of the mind, the power of speech, and anger. And agitations of the tongue, belly, and genitals. When we become angry, we forget everything and can do any nonsense and speak so much nonsense. For the agitation of the tongue, there are so many advertisements. Here is liquor, here is chicken, here is beef. Will we die without liquor, chicken, or beef? No. For the human beings, Krishna has given so many nice things to eat: grains, fruits, milk, and so on. The cow produces milk abundantly, not for herself, but for human beings. That is proper human food. God says, Mrs. Cow, although you are producing milk, you cannot drink it. It is for the human beings who are more advanced than animals. Of course, in the infant stage, animals live off their mother's milk, so the calves drink some of the cow's milk, but the cow gives excess milk, and that excess is specifically meant for us. We should accept whatever God has ordained as our proper food. But no, because of the agitation of the tongue, we think, why should I be satisfied eating grains, milk products, and vegetables, and fruits? Let me maintain a slaughterhouse and kill these cows. After drinking their milk, just as I drank my mother's milk, let me kill them to satisfy my tongue. You shouldn't think such nonsense, but should hear from the dhiras or swamis who have controlled their senses. A swami or goswami is one who has control over the 6 agitations: the speech, the mind, anger, the tongue, the belly, and the genitals. There is a nice poem by Kalidas called Kumara Sambhava, describing how Lord Shiva is dhira. When Lord Shiva's wife, Sati, heard Shiva being blasphemed at a sacrifice performed by her father, she committed suicide. Upon hearing about his wife's suicide, Lord Shiva became very angry and left this planet to meditate elsewhere. During that time, there was a war between the demons and the demigods. The demigods needed a good general. They concluded that if Lord Shiva were to beget a son, the son would be able to lead them in the fight against the demons. Lord Shiva was completely naked while meditating. So Parvati, the incarnation of Sati, was sent to agitate his genitals for sex. But he was not agitated. He remained silent. At this point, Kalidasa remarks, "Here is a Dhira. He is naked, and a young girl is touching his genitals, but still he is not agitated." Now, just for your information, Shiva did have two sons. One was Kartikeya, or Murugan, or the general of the Deva army, and the other was Ganapati. Right? But both sons were born with Shiva's seed, but he did not engage in direct sex with Parvati. At one time, he was close to her, and then he dropped some of his seed, but that was not because of intercourse. So anyway, and both times something like that happened, and both times the Devas got his seed, kept him in a clay pot, and later on gave it to a what do you call a substitute mother, or what's the name of that? It's a surrogate. Yes, surrogate mother. And so in one case, it was in one case it was Kartikeya. In another case, it was also Hanuman. I forgot that he has three. Hanuman also, his seed was given to Anjani, who was a monkey. And then in another case, it was Ganapati. Right? But Ganapati was a human being, but he had his head cut off. And then Lord Shiva put the head of an elephant on him. Anyway, there's a lot of interesting things to talk about there. So it says, we should accept whatever God has ordained as our proper food. But no, because the agitation of the tongue, we think, why should I be satisfied, etc. There is a nice poem by Kalidas, okay? Dhira means that even if there is some cause for agitation, one will not be agitated. If there is some very nice food, my tongue should not be agitated to taste it. If there is a very nice girl or boy, still, I should not be agitated sexually. In this way, one who is Dhira is able to control the 6 agitating forces mentioned above. It is not that Lord Shiva was impotent. He was Dhira. Similarly, Krishna danced with so many girls, but there was no sex appetite. So you have to hear from a person who is Dhira. If you hear from the Adhira, or from those who are not self-controlled, then whatever knowledge you learn will be useless. In the Ishopanishad, a student has approached his spiritual master to inquire from him. And the spiritual master is saying, this is what I've heard from authoritative sources. The spiritual master is not inventing something from his own experience. He is presenting exactly what he has heard. So that's a very important statement. So we have nothing to research. Again, he's saying we don't use the pratyaksha, or we don't use experimental process. We don't have to research anything. Everything is there already. We simply have to hear from a person who is Dhira, who is not agitated by the 6 urges. That is the Vedic process of gaining knowledge. And if we try to use some other process, we will remain covered by nescience. There it is. Condemnation of mundane knowledge and mundane schools and mundane teachers, right there. The Ishopanishad states, only one who can learn the process of nescience or ignorance and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. So that's 10th mantra of the Ishopanishad. 11th mantra, I'm sorry, the 11th mantra. Okay. People do not understand what immortality is. They think it is a mythological idea. Now, this is a very important point. This is in Srimad Bhagavatam also, where it says, in the second canto, second canto, 7th chapter, 36th verse, people are less intelligent because they have no knowledge of eternality, and they don't believe that they have actually an eternal soul. So therefore, do they teach that in schools, that you have an eternal soul? No. So what happens if you don't understand that you have an eternal soul? You become less intelligent because there's no knowledge of eternality. So if people think, wow, this is it, this one life, I may as well use this body and mind as much as I can for sense gratification, because when I die, everything's going to be over. That's what this lady told me. I think Adi Dev, you were there when I was speaking to her? Right.
I still remember it, like a couple of years back.
Yeah. She was a highly educated lady. I think she had a master's degree, or she was going for a PhD. And it was at the food truck in the University Heights. And we're sitting down, and I was talking to her, and she says, well, I my only prayer is that when I die, there's nothing afterwards. Right? And she said that. And I said, well, why are you limiting yourself like that? I said, that's not, what do you mean limiting? I said, you have such a great potential of eternality. Why are you limiting yourself? No, I don't. I believe, that's my only prayer. I believe that when I die, everything is over. So that's just, that is not scientific. She's arbitrarily limiting herself and her potential, you see. And where does she learn that? They learn that in school, that there's no eternity. There's no living after death. There's no consciousness after death. So the Vedic, he says, so we have nothing to research. Everything is there. We simply have to hear from a person who is Dhira, who is not agitated by the 6 urges. That is the Vedic process of gaining knowledge. And if we try to use some other process, we will remain covered by nescience or ignorance. The Ishopanishad states, only one who can learn the process. Okay, so if you want real knowledge, you should take knowledge from the literature known as the Vedas. The word Veda means knowledge. Part of the Vedas are the 108 Upanishads, out of which 11 are very important. Of those 11, the Ishopanishad stands first. In the word Upanishad, Upa means near, so the knowledge in the Ishopanishad will take you nearer to Krishna. In learned or learned society, the Vedas are accepted as Shruti. So actually, when, and this word has 2 ways of being pronounced, learned or learned. So I think in the context when you're using it as an adjective, it should be pronounced learned. Why don't you look this up and be sure I'm not saying some nonsense here. In learned or learned society, the Vedas are accepted as Shruti. Shruti means primary evidence, or that which is spoken by a bona fide authority. The Vedas are not knowledge established by the research work of contaminated, conditioned souls. Such people have imperfect senses, and so they cannot see things as they are. They simply theorize. Just like that lady, she makes a theory. After death, there's no existence. She does not see things as they are. See? She's seeing something in an illusory way, and she's hoping it's right. So how can that be scientific? It's a hope against hope. Did you find the pronunciation of learn? Learned. Is it?
So one is learned,
Yes.
and another one learned. I think there is a I sound for the adjective.
So it says that when it's used as an adjective, it's learned, and when it's used as a verb, it's learned. Yeah. Okay. Good. Wow. I was not absolutely sure about that. So the way to pronounce it is in learned society, the Vedas are accepted as Shruti, or primary evidence. You see how we learn English in this class? That's good. They simply theorize. It may be like this. It may be like that. That is not knowledge. Knowledge is definite, without any doubt or mistake. Conditioned souls commit mistakes, become illusioned, and cheat. How do they cheat? When one does not know, when one does not understand the Bhagavad Gita, but writes a commentary on it, he is cheating the innocent public. So that was Gandhi and so many others. Someone has a title as a scholar, so he takes advantage of the popularity of the Bhagavad Gita and writes a commentary. Such so-called scholars claim that anyone can give his own opinion. But in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that only his devotee can understand the Gita. So these so-called scholars are cheating. So where does it say that only his devotee can understand the Gita? It's Bhaktyamam abhijananti yavanyas chasmi tatvata tatumam tatvato gyatva vishiti tad anantaram. So that's 1154. Let's see what it says here. Yeah, it's right, but let me just double check. Come on. Wrong place. Well, 1865 says only by Bhakti Yoga, but here it says, my dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am standing before you and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. That's 54. 1154. And that was the first thing you quoted. And 1155 says, my dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. Okay, you could use those two verses. Also, tesam satita yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yenamam upayantite. That's the exact verse. And it says 10:10. Those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they come to me. And then 11, to show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy the shining lamp of knowledge. Destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So, the 10, 10, and 11, and 11, 54, and 55. Okay? So. In learned society, the Vedas are accepted as Shruti, or primary evidence. The Vedas are not knowledge established by the research work of contaminated, conditioned souls. Such people have imperfect senses, and so they cannot see things as they are. They simply theorize. It may be like this, it may be like that. That is not knowledge. Knowledge is definite, without any doubt or mistake. Conditioned souls commit mistakes, become illusioned, and cheat. How do they cheat? When one who does not understand the Bhagavad Gita writes a commentary on it, he is cheating the innocent public. Someone has a title as a scholar, or so he takes advantage of the popularity of the Bhagavad Gita and writes a commentary. Such so-called scholars claim that anyone can give his own opinion, but in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that only his devotee can understand the Gita, so these so-called scholars are cheating. The conclusion is that if you want genuine spiritual knowledge, you have to approach a bona fide spiritual master who has realized the absolute truth. Otherwise, you will remain in darkness. You cannot think, oh, I may or may not accept a spiritual master. In any case, there are books that I can learn from. No. You see, he rejected that. There are books I can learn from. No. The Vedic injunction is tadviganartam sagurum eva bigachet. The word gachet means one must go, not that one may or may not go. To understand transcendental knowledge, one must go to a spiritual master. That is the Vedic injunction. Here it is. Tadviganartam sagurum eva bigachet. Samit pani shrutiyam brahmanistam. Very, very important verse. I think it's the Swataswatara Upanishad. You must know two things. What is Maya, illusion, and what is Krishna? Then your knowledge is perfect. But today, people accept Maya as knowledge and Krishna as nonsense. So it's just the opposite. Then your knowledge is perfect. Of course, Krishna is so nice that if you somehow or other fully surrender to him, all your searching for knowledge will be finished. Not only will you know what Krishna is, but you will automatically learn what Maya is. Krishna will give you intelligence from within. So that's Bhagavad Gita 10:10. He gives you knowledge from within. So, by the mercy of both the spiritual master and Krishna, one takes up devotional service. How is that? Their mercy runs on parallel lines. So that's a verse. Yasha Devi Parabhaktir Tata Devi Yata Devi Tata Guru Tashaite Katita Hiatak Prakasante Mahatmana. If you have not yet found a spiritual master but are sincere, Krishna will direct you to a bona fide spiritual master. And if you get a bona fide spiritual master, he will take you to Krishna. Krishna is always sitting in your heart as the Chaita Guru, the spiritual master within. It is that Chaita Guru who manifests himself externally as the spiritual master. Therefore, the spiritual master is the direct representative of Krishna. The Ishopanishad says we should learn what vidya and avidya are. Avidya is ignorance under the guise of materialistic knowledge. That's what's being taught in school. Ignorance under the guise of materialistic knowledge. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in one of his songs that advancement of material knowledge is simply the advancement of Maya's jurisdiction. Meaning, by learning this mundane knowledge, one will always remain in the cycle of birth and death and not be able to get out. The less you can understand, the more you become implicated in material knowledge, the less you can understand Krishna consciousness. That's a law. That's a law of nature. The more you become implicated in material knowledge, the less you can understand Krishna consciousness. Those who are advanced in material knowledge think, what use is this Krishna consciousness movement? They have no attraction. They have no attraction for spiritual knowledge. They are too absorbed in avidya. Hari Bol, that is the gospel truth right there. Some Indian boys reject the spiritual culture of India and come to the West to learn technology. Whoa. How many Indian boys is that? You should add Indian girls to that also. They come to the West to learn technology. When they see that I have introduced in the West the things that they rejected in India, they are surprised. What? You're teaching this? We already rejected it. How come you're teaching this here? We came here to learn the opposite. One reason I came to the West is that modern India has rejected spiritual knowledge. Whoa. So not only the West has rejected spiritual knowledge, India has also rejected spiritual knowledge. Today, Indians think that if they can imitate Western technology, they will be happy. This is Maya. They do not see that those who are 300 times more technologically advanced than the Indians are not happy. Can you say that everyone's happy in the United States? No, they're agitated. They're upset. They're either upset with Trump, or they're upset with Biden, or they're just upset with everything. India will not be able to equal American or European technology for at least 300 years, because the Western countries have been developing technology for a very long time. But since the time of creation, Indian culture has been a spiritual culture. Jai, what time is it now? Okay, so we'll stop right there. We repeated a lot of this because it's very important, and we'll pick it up from this point tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanande Haribol. Who is going to sing the Guru Puja? Anybody? Oh, okay. Come on. Let's set up the microphone.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Bandhu Mui Savadana Mate Jahara Prasade Pai E Baba Thariya Jai
Janara Prasade Bhai E Bhavatoriya Jai.
Krishna Prapti Hoi Ja Hoi Te
Krishna Prabhi Hoya Hoite.
Shri Guru Muk Guru Muk Padma Vakya Chite Te Koriya Kya
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Kya
Arana Koriyo Mane Asha Shri Guru Charane Rati Hey Se Uttama Gati
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati
Je Prasade Pure Sarva Asha
Ye Prasade Pure Sarvasa
Chakshudan Dilo Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Se
Chakshudan Dilaje Janme Janme Prabhu Se
Divya Gnan Hriday Prakashito
Diye Gyane De Prakashito
प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते
प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते
वेदे गाय जहाँ रचरितो
वेदे गाय जहाँ रचरितो
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदाम जनार बंधु
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदाम जनार बंधु
लोकेना लोकेर जीवाना हा प्रभु कोर दया देहो मोरे पाद चय
हा प्रभु कोर दया देह मोरे पाद चय
एबे जाश कुशुक त्रिभुवना
एबे जाश कुशुक त्रिभुवना
शिला प्रभुपाद पतित पावना
प्रभुपाद पतित
जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण प्रसाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामिने
नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण प्रसाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी भाषाद्यादिशतारिणे
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी भाषाद्यादिशतारिणे
जय श्री
कृष्ण
चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद
हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Hari Bol,
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gora Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararajikachasta Tarasatri Shri Shimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vindi Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samkunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapura Dham Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the Assembled Lord. All glories to the Assembled. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi Haribol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Simati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharini Nirvisesa Sunivadi Paskatya Dasatani. Hare Krishna. The lotus feet of our spiritual masters are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to this lotus feet with great warm reverence. By His grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna.
My only wish is to have a consciousness of God by the words emanating from His lotus mouth. Attachment to His lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From His ecstatic prema on me, by Him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of His character.
The Vedic scriptures sing of His character. Our spiritual master
is the ocean of mercy,
friend of the poor, and Lord of
and Lord of
devotees.
master of the devotee.
Oh, Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada